Wife abandoned me caring for dying father, but when he left me millions. I'm 37 years old, and my spouse Emily is 35. We've been married for 9 years and have 2 children, Noah, who's 8, and Chloe, who's 5. Although our marriage had its ups and downs, I thought we were doing well. But the truth came to light when my father, who had been struggling with kidney problems for years, began to deteriorate. My father was a strong man, both physically and emotionally. He built a woodworking business from scratch that, over the years, became a local reference. On the other hand, I followed a different path. I was always passionate about technology and graduated in software engineering. This created some tension between us. My father wanted me to take over the family business, but I wanted to build something of my own. After college, I got a job at a tech company, bought my own house at 30, and lived an independent life. Despite our differences, we always respected each other. Due to a heart attack, my mother passed away, and my father was devastated. He lost his lifelong companion, and I felt I needed to be more present for him. I started visiting him frequently and bringing the kids to brighten his days. However, my spouse always avoided accompanying us. She claimed that my mother was controlling and that my family didn't respect us. After my mother's passing, Emily distanced herself even more from the idea of us having any kind of closeness with my father. In the last 2 years, my father's health worsened. He needed dialysis twice a week and could no longer drive. We hired a nurse to help him at home, but my father frequently asked me to accompany him to the dialysis sessions. For me, it was the least I could do for him. I organized my routine. On Wednesdays, I would leave work early to take him, and on Saturdays, my day off, was time I guaranteed to be with him. My boss was understanding since I'd been with the company for over a decade and had a reputation as a dedicated employee. However, Emily didn't handle this change well. From the beginning, she made passive-aggressive comments about the time I spent with my father. Why are you wasting your Wednesdays and Saturdays with him? He doesn't even care about you. He cut you out of the will, remember? She would say things that hurt me deeply. It wasn't just the lack of empathy, it was obvious selfishness. I tried to explain that I wasn't doing it for money or inheritance. I was doing it because he was my father. At first, I tried to deal with her resistance. I would offer to compensate on other days, helping with the kids or doing more household chores. But nothing was enough. On Saturdays, she would insist on making last-minute plans, knowing I couldn't participate, whether it was a party, an outing with the kids, or something as trivial as grocery shopping. She used any excuse to back me into a corner. Little by little, this began to affect the time I had with my father. I started to feel constantly pressured, rushing to get home and avoid arguments. Wednesdays were even worse. Emily would go out with friends or visit relatives, leaving me in charge of the kids. As soon as I got home from work, I had to cook, take care of the house, and still make up for the work hours I'd missed. There were nights when I barely slept, trying to balance it all. I was exhausted, but I saw no other way out. My father needed me, and I refused to let him deal with this alone. Things started to escalate when Emily began involving the kids. I heard Emily tell Noah that Grandpa was a mean man and, "Your father is wasting time with him instead of being with you." That infuriated me. I tried to confront her, but she just laughed. "They need to know the truth," was her response. Despite that, I remained firm in my decision. My father needed me, and I was determined to be there for him. But that didn't stop Emily. Her tantrums and arguments continued to increase every week. It was like walking through a minefield. One day, when I returned from dialysis, she gave me an ultimatum: either your father or me. I looked at her in disbelief. "Emily, he's my father. He's passing away. How can you be so insensitive?" She simply crossed her arms and responded, "He's already out of the will. Why are you destroying yourself for someone who won't leave you anything?" I took a deep breath and responded with the calm I managed to gather. "If you really think I'm doing this for money, you don't know me. I choose my father." She stormed out of the room furiously, and the next day, she took the kids and went to her mother's house. I didn't try to stop her. I needed time to process what was happening. At that moment, my priority was my father and my children. She could stay away as long as she wanted. If you're enjoying this story and want to see how it unfolds, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you have made the same choice? Your opinion matters to me. The days after Emily left the house were chaotic, but somehow peaceful. She took the kids to her mother's house, leaving me alone to organize my thoughts and focus on my father. I would call Noah and Chloe every night, but Emily would limit the conversations and always seemed ready to argue. I avoided unnecessary confrontations because I knew they would only harm my children. My routine was now clearer. I could dedicate all the time my father needed for his dialysis sessions without hearing complaints or facing crises at home. It seemed cruel to admit it, but Emily's absence brought unexpected peace. I took care of work, household chores, and most importantly, my father's well-being. He noticed something had changed. "Emily is causing you a lot of problems. He asked me one day while I was taking him to the dialysis center. I responded with a tired smile. She's at her parents' house for now. He sighed, and for the first time in a long time, he put his hand on my shoulder. You're doing a lot for me, son. Don't let this destroy you. Those words reached my heart. My father, who had always been a tough and critical man, was beginning to realize how much I was trying. That gave me strength to keep going. Meanwhile, Emily began to show her true intentions. Although she told friends and family that she had left because I was prioritizing my father instead of her, rumors started reaching me. She was saying it wasn't worth staying married to me if my father had already cut me out of the will. It was hard to hear those things, but I preferred to focus on what really mattered, my father and my children. One night, after weeks without seeing the kids, I decided to visit Noah and Chloe. I bought ice cream on the way to my mother-in-law's house, anxious to spend time with them. When I arrived, Noah hugged me tight, but Chloe seemed confused. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, barely hid her displeasure. You finally decided to pay attention to the kids, she said with a sarcastic tone. I took a deep breath and ignored the comment. I knew Emily had probably distorted the story for her mother, but when I was about to leave, something Noah said broke my heart. Daddy, Mommy said you don't love us anymore. Is that true? I wanted to scream, but I knelt down, looked him in the eyes, and responded calmly, that will never be true, son. I love you more than anything. I will always want you with me. Noah smiled, but Chloe remained confused. I decided I needed to bring them back home. It was unfair for them to be in the middle of this dispute. A month after Emily left, I received the separation papers. It wasn't a surprise, but the moment I opened the envelope was strange. There were no requests for alimony or division of assets. She didn't even ask for custody of the kids. This relieved me but also irritated me. How could she give up her children so easily? I signed the papers that same day and sent them back. I made no attempt at reconciliation, which apparently infuriated her. She called me 2 days later, screaming over the phone, how could you just sign without fighting for me? Without trying to save the marriage? I laughed in disbelief. Emily, you left me. You wanted the separation. What else did you expect? She started crying, saying she thought I would beg for her to come back. Her mother took the phone and started yelling at me, saying I wasn't a real man for not trying to save the relationship. I hung up. There was nothing more to say. After that, Emily completely disappeared. She didn't call anymore. She didn't look for the kids. It was as if she had cut all ties with our family. Although it was devastating for Noah and Chloe, I realized we were better off this way. With the separation finalized and custody of the kids formally with me, I began to organize our lives in a new way. I decided it would be better for everyone if we moved to my father's house. He had a full-time caregiver, which meant she could help supervise the kids while I worked. Plus, being close to Grandpa seemed to bring joy to my children. When I told my father about the plan, he got emotional. It'll be good to have the house full again. I want to spend as much time as possible with you all. The move was a success. Noah and Chloe loved the room I prepared for them, and my father started spending his days playing with them, laughing like he hadn't in a long time. I also felt more connected to him. Conversations during trips to dialysis were once again about our lives and memories, and I could see that despite his weakened health, he was happy. Of course, Emily didn't take long to find out about our move. I suspected someone from her family had informed her, but I didn't care anymore. We were starting fresh, and there was no place for her in our new routine. Weeks turned into months, and our life finally found balance. The kids seemed happier. My father was comfortable, and I managed to handle everything with the caregiver's help. But deep down, I knew my time with him was running out. One night, after putting the kids to bed, I sat next to my father and asked him, "Are you happy, Dad?" He smiled, taking my hand. "More than ever, son. You're the best thing I've ever done in my life." Those words stayed with me, resonating in my mind even after I said goodbye to him that night. The routine was beginning to stabilize, but I knew my father was getting weaker each week. Even with all the care he was receiving, the physical wear was evident. One day during a consultation, the doctor told me to prepare for the worst. It was like taking a punch to the stomach, but I knew I was doing everything possible to ensure my father's last days were filled with love and comfort. One night, after a day full of games with the kids, my father went to bed early. Before going up to my room, I stopped by his to say goodnight. He smiled at me and said, "Son, you're the best decision I've ever made in my life. Take care of the kids and never forget what you're capable of." He seemed so at peace that I wasn't worried. The next morning, the caregiver woke me with tears in her eyes. My father had passed away in his sleep. The impact overwhelmed me. Although I knew this moment was inevitable, I called the doctor, who confirmed he had passed peacefully, without pain. I cried like I never had before, but I also felt relief knowing he had spent his last months happy, surrounded by his family. The kids were devastated. Noah, being the oldest, managed to understand what had happened, but Chloe had difficulty processing it. I spent the following days consoling them and organizing the memorial service. The service was simple but beautiful, exactly as he would have liked. During the burial, I placed a photo of my mother next to him, something he always said he wanted. This story is about to take an unexpected turn. If you want to know what happens next, keep watching until the end, and don't forget to leave a like and comment what you think will happen. Let's go! After the memorial service, a family attorney contacted me. He told me he needed to meet with me to discuss the will. At first, I refused, believing there was nothing to discuss since my father had left everything to charity. But the attorney insisted, and I finally agreed to meet. At the meeting, the attorney and representatives from the charitable organization my father had chosen to handle the business and his fortune were present. I was ready to sign any documents necessary to officially transfer the assets. But the attorney seemed hesitant. Matthew, your father did something you may not have expected. He began with a discreet smile. He opened the will and began reading it aloud. To my surprise, my father had left everything to me: the house, the business, his savings. Everything was now mine. When the attorney finished reading, I was in shock. But he cut me out years ago, I murmured. Yes, you followed your own career, the attorney explained. But he never gave up on you. I broke down at that very moment. It wasn't the assets that moved me. It was the idea that my father had never really given up on me. All the arguments, all the years of tension, everything seemed so small compared to the love and respect he had always had for me. The representatives from the charitable organization seemed genuinely happy for me. The attorney explained that I had the option to continue with the donation of the business to them or take it under my control. This left me divided. My father had placed his trust in me, and the decision to return the business to the organization or run it personally seemed enormous. I told him I needed time to think. I returned home with a heavy heart and shared the news with Noah and Chloe. I explained that Grandpa had left something special for us and that we needed to honor his memory. Being children, they didn't fully understand, but the idea that Grandpa was still taking care of us made them happy. The days that followed were filled with reflection. I started reviewing my father's old business and realized he had created something truly special. It was more than just a source of income, it was a legacy. I decided I would take control of the company and try to honor his life's work. Although I had no direct experience in the sector, I hired specialists to help me manage the day-to-day details so I could learn while making the transition responsibly. At the same time, I began adjusting our life at home. I used part of the inheritance to ensure the kids had everything they needed, from good education to extracurricular activities they had always wanted. I also hired extra help to make sure there was support at home while I learned to manage the company. It was at this point when the aunts found the sugar. Emily appeared again. One day, I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, there she was, Emily, along with her parents. They were all well-dressed, with looks of false sympathy. Matthew, we heard about your father. We're so sorry for your loss. If we had known, we would have attended the memorial service. Emily began with fake tears in her eyes. I remained silent for a few seconds, letting the uncomfortable atmosphere fill the space. Finally, I asked, if you really cared, why didn't you try to contact me before? Emily tried to deflect the conversation, saying she had stopped by our old house and saw it empty but didn't know where I was. It was clearly a lie. If she really cared about Noah and Chloe, she would have done more than knock on a closed door. But at that moment, I realized her true intentions. She started talking about reconciliation, saying the kids needed their mother and that we could start over. Her parents backed her up, saying it was best for all of us. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You're here for my father's money, I told her, looking directly at her. If you were here for the kids, you would have shown up in the last few months. But you didn't, did you? Because they're not your priority. Emily pretended to be offended, but I knew I had hit the mark. Emily tried to maintain her composure while vehemently denying my accusation. I can't believe you're judging me like this, Matthew. I'm here for you, for the kids, for what we built together. I laughed, but this time not from nervousness, from disbelief. Built together, Emily. You left my life and left the kids because I decided to take care of my father. You gave me an ultimatum and forced me to choose. Now suddenly you say you miss our family. Let's be honest, what you want is money. The discomfort was evident. Her parents, who had always been experts in manipulation, started speaking for her. Her mother, with a condescending tone, said, Matthew, we understand you're hurt, but think about the kids. They need stability, and the best way to get it is for you two to be together again. Plus, Emily has also suffered during this time away. Give her a chance to rebuild this. I stood firm, looking directly at Emily. The kids have stability. They have a father who's present in their lives. The only instability here is caused by you, Emily. Emily started crying, taking my hands as if trying to move me. Please, Matthew. I made mistakes. I was lost, confused, but I want to come back. I want this to work. I took a deep breath. I looked at her parents and then directly at her. You want to come back because you found out about my father's inheritance. If he had really left everything to charity, I doubt you'd be here now. Am I wrong? She hesitated but couldn't respond. Her silence was all I needed to hear. I took her hands, released them, and said, Emily, I don't want you back. I don't want you coming around for money. You didn't want the kids before, and now you think you can walk into their lives like nothing happened. It's not going to happen. She froze, but soon her expression changed from pleading to anger. You think you can just dismiss me like that? You have no right to keep me away from the kids. I'm their mother. It was then that things changed tone. Emily started screaming, and her parents, visibly uncomfortable, tried to calm her down. I stood firm, reminding her that she had signed the separation papers and agreed to give up custody without fighting. You gave up the kids, Emily. You had the chance to fight for them, but you didn't. Now it's too late. The following days were chaotic. Emily started showing up at the kids' school, trying to take them without my authorization. I had already alerted the school administrators about the situation, and several times she was denied access. One day, she managed to convince Noah to talk to her at the entrance. When I arrived to pick them up, I found Noah crying, confused by the things she had told him. She said, "You won't let us see her because you're angry with her, Dad," Noah told me through tears. "She said she wants to be with us, but you won't let her. Is that true, Dad?" I knelt down beside him, trying to find the right words. "Noah, I would never stop your mom from seeing you if it was good for you and Chloe. But right now, your mom is here for the wrong reasons. I know it's hard to understand now, but my job is to protect you and your sister." He was still confused but seemed to accept my explanation. Chloe, being smaller, didn't show as much impact, but I knew it was only a matter of time before she started feeling the effects of this chaos. I spoke with my attorney to find out what could be done. He suggested supervising any contact between Emily and the kids but also warned me about the risk of her trying to manipulate the situation to ask for custody, or worse, use the kids as leverage to demand money. Following his advice, I decided to be proactive. I documented every attempt she made to interfere and made it clear that any meetings had to be under my supervision. This infuriated her even more, but I was determined to protect my children, not just physically but emotionally as well. Meanwhile, my life with the kids and my father's business continued to prosper. Taking on the company was challenging but rewarding. I started working with a team that deeply understood the sector, and together we managed to revitalize my father's legacy. Old clients returned, and new ones began to appear. I felt more connected to my father than ever, as if I was honoring his memory with every decision I made. The kids were also adapting. Although they still occasionally asked about Emily, our new routine was bringing stability and happiness to our lives. I planned a trip for the summer, something I always wanted to do but never had the time or resources for. The Bahamas seemed like the perfect destination to disconnect from everything and simply enjoy time together. It was then that I received a legal notification. Emily was trying to reopen the custody case, claiming I was alienating the kids and that they needed a mother figure. My attorney was prepared for this and assured me we had a solid case against any accusations. However, the idea of going back to court brought back old ghosts. I knew Emily wasn't doing this out of love for the kids. She was trying to find a way to access the inheritance money. This only reinforced my determination to keep my family safe. Meanwhile, I continued investing my time and energy in my father's company and, most importantly, in the kids. Our bond was stronger than ever, and I knew that no matter what Emily tried, we were prepared to face it together. The legal notification I received from Emily was the last straw. She had hired an attorney and was formally requesting a review of the kids' custody. Her justification, that I was intentionally preventing the kids' contact with their mother in a harmful way, was an absurd accusation. But the fact that she was willing to lie in court only reinforced how selfish her intentions were. My attorney, Mark, was an experienced and straightforward man. He assured me we had all the evidence that I wasn't alienating anyone. We had records of her visits to school, unsupervised encounters, and even testimonies from school employees about how she manipulated the kids. "She doesn't have a solid case," Mark reassured me, "but that doesn't mean she won't try to complicate your life." The legal process was exhausting but not unexpected. Meanwhile, I stayed focused on the kids' routine and my father's company. My priority was to ensure Noah and Chloe had as few interruptions as possible in their lives. I enrolled them in extracurricular activities to keep their minds busy and help them create new happy memories. The first day in court was tense. Emily entered with a dramatic attitude, accompanied by her parents. She seemed to have rehearsed every word with her attorney. However, when asked about her absence after the separation, her behavior began to crumble. My attorney pressed her to explain why she hadn't tried to visit or contact the kids in the months following the separation. "I needed time for myself," she said, trying to appear vulnerable. "I was emotionally overwhelmed. Mark didn't let the opportunity pass. And in that time, you completely ignored your children. You didn't call, didn't visit, didn't even send a message." She hesitated. "I thought it would be better that way." The evidence was on our side. Mark presented proof that Emily only started trying to contact the kids after finding out about the inheritance. He also showed text messages from her to friends where she admitted her motivation was financial. The judge seemed unimpressed with her arguments. At the end of the initial hearing, it was clear the court wasn't inclined to grant shared custody. Emily left furious, and her parents didn't even try to hide their frustration. Despite the initial victory, the process was far from over. Emily continued trying to find loopholes, but each attempt seemed to further strengthen our case. The hardest part was dealing with the emotional impact on Noah and Chloe. Noah started having nightmares, fearing his mother might take him away. Chloe, being smaller, was more confused than worried but started asking difficult questions like, "Why is mommy angry with you?" I knew I needed to protect them but also stay calm. "Mommy is trying to understand things, Chloe," I would say, trying to soften the situation. "But you don't have to worry. Daddy is here to take care of you." Between hearings, life continued. My work at my father's company kept growing, and to my surprise, I started finding unexpected pleasure in managing it. I never imagined I'd someday take on that business, but now I felt I was connecting important parts of my life, my family, my past, and my future. The kids also seemed to thrive despite the situation with Emily. They loved spending time at the company office, especially Noah, who showed interest in and learning about his grandfather's work. This filled my heart with pride, and I knew my father would have been happy to see this. The final trial arrived. Emily made her last attempt, saying she wanted what was best for the kids. It was an emotional but empty speech. When my attorney presented the timeline of her behaviors and lack of involvement in recent months, it became clear to everyone that her intentions weren't genuine. The judge decided in my favor, maintaining exclusive custody of the kids with me. Emily had permission for supervised visits but only under strict conditions. The decision was a relief but also a weight. I knew she wouldn't give up so easily. After the court's decision, Emily tried to confront me in the courthouse parking lot. She was furious. "You think you won, Matthew? This isn't over. I'll get what I deserve one way or another." I took a deep breath and looked at her directly. "Emily, what you lost wasn't my fault or the court's. You lost it because you made decisions based on greed, not love. The kids deserve better than that." She walked away, but her words echoed in my mind. I knew she might try other ways to interfere, but I was determined to protect my family no matter what. After the court's decision, things finally started to stabilize. Emily stopped showing up unexpectedly or causing direct problems, but I knew her absence didn't mean she had completely given up. My attorney Mark recommended I remain vigilant for any attempts by her to approach, especially the kids. I followed his advice and continued documenting everything. Meanwhile, our routine at home flourished. My father's company was strengthening, and I felt more comfortable in my leadership role. Noah and Chloe were thriving at school, participating in extracurricular activities. For the first time in months, they seemed genuinely happy. I decided it was time to fulfill the trip I had promised them. I planned a vacation to the Bahamas, something I knew they would love. The trip was transformative. Seeing the smile on Noah's face as he played in the sand and hearing Chloe's laughter as she ran through the waves was all I needed to reaffirm I was on the right path. Emily's absence was noticeable, of course, but in a way that brought peace, not sadness. I realized our best moments were now defined by genuine love and security, without the constant weight of conflicts. Upon returning home, I was surprised by an unexpected visitor. Emily was standing in front of the house, holding flowers, and with a smile I recognized as fake. Noah and Chloe were in the car with me, and when they saw her, their reactions were mixed. Chloe seemed excited while Noah, more aware, seemed doubtful. I asked the kids to wait in the car while I approached her. "What are you doing here, Emily?" "Matthew, please don't be rude. I just wanted to visit the kids. I know I haven't been the best mother, but I want to change that. I want them to see me as someone present in their lives." I sighed but decided to allow the supervised visit. She played with the kids in the backyard for about an hour, but her attention seemed more focused on me than on them. When the kids went inside to get something, she finally revealed the real reason for her visit. "Matthew, can we try again? For the family, for the kids. I still love you." I laughed in disbelief. "Emily, this has nothing to do with love or family. This is about money. You never showed up before my father's inheritance, and now you want me to believe you're here for another reason? No, the kids are happy. They're safe, and that's all that matters." She tried to argue, but I was firm. "You lost your chance, Emily. There's no room for you in my life beyond what the court determined. If you really care about the kids, focus on rebuilding your relationship with them. But between us, there's nothing more." She left crying, but I didn't feel guilty. I did what was necessary to protect my children and my well-being. The following weeks were quiet, but I knew Emily was plotting something. I discovered she had consulted with attorneys, probably to challenge the custody agreement again or even seek a portion of the inheritance. Fortunately, Mark was always one step ahead. He reinforced legal protections, ensuring any attempt by her to initiate a new process would be quickly dismissed. Over time, her attempts began to diminish. I realized that without any legal or emotional loopholes to manipulate, she was finally backing away. But I never let my guard down completely. Little by little, life took a new direction. The company grew, becoming a bigger business than my father could have imagined. I decided to use part of the profits to help other local families, something I knew my father would have supported. This gave me a sense of purpose, as if I was continuing his legacy in a meaningful way. Noah and Chloe were also growing fast. Noah started showing interest in the family business, which filled my heart with pride, while Chloe loved hearing stories about her grandfather. Looking back at everything that happened, I realized my father gave me much more than material wealth. He gave me a lesson about love, family, and what really matters. Emily tried to come back into our lives for the wrong reasons, but I'm glad I stood firm. My children are happy, healthy, and surrounded by love. My father's legacy lives on, not just in the business, but in the values he taught me and that I now pass on to my children. And as for Emily, she made her choices, and now she has to live with the consequences. As for us, we're building a future full of hope, love, and genuine connections.